Alright. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. It's been a while since I've uploaded to Big Coaching, but I said, you know what, I'm not going to do another Bronze to Jam for a while. Maybe never, I don't know. But there are individual questions that pop up over and over again, and one is how to beat skytoss as Zerg. And I figured, you know what, I had a 42-minute game of pure frustration the other day, where I was quite rude to my opponent, as I often am. I would never say it to them, right? I'm just shouting angrily at my monitor, essentially, about how they're playing an easy-to-execute, low APM style. They just sit at their cannons and batteries, building air units all game. They never do anything, and they just hope that you don't know how to beat it. Very frustrating to play against, very annoying, and I was basically super triggered while playing against this. Now, I do some things fantastically in this game, which is why I wanted to go over it, but I also crap the bed on a bunch of things and do some really dumb things as well. So I think it's a good mix because we show you what I think is the path of least resistance against skytoss that makes it easy, and we also show you some of the pitfalls that you can fall into when playing this style, which I do repeatedly in this match and make it much harder for myself than it really needed to be. My opponent's build is garbage, and this is usually what you'll expect from skytoss players. They just do random stuff. Like, I don't know, building a battery and a wall off with like the wonkiest wall off ever before taking a third. For some reason, we've rushed Fleet Beacon on only one Stargate. The second Stargate's really late. It's not a great build order, but it doesn't matter. What matters is when you are playing, how do you identify skytoss? Their builds are almost always going to be wonky and weird, and there are different flavors of skytoss that they can play. But the first thing you want to look for is multiple void rays. So if they build more than one void ray, and even one void ray should already make you think, ooh, what's this guy doing? What's he hiding by sniping my overlord? So being active with Zerglings can potentially see more void rays. Pull all your overlords back off the map so they don't die. These are the first few steps. Next step is once you've got a lair, do try to make overseers and send them along the corners and then into the back of their base. So send one along the top left and one along the bottom right. That's going to be good. The main thing, though, which is going to tell you they're doing this, is this, guys. If you see a natural with cannons on it, or if they open with a cannon rush, usually they're going to play skytoss. So there are certain things that should already make you like on high alert, thinking, oh, this could be a skytoss game. Does he have a random battery on his natural? That's already a little suspicious. But if there's cannons building on their natural, or if they cannon rush you and then expand behind it, usually they're going to, like, if they full wall off their base, skytoss almost always. If they're building lots of cannons early on, almost always. And of course, once we see a carrier, we know exactly what's happening in this game as well, right? So always keep an eye out for it by running in with Zerglings. If you see almost no gateway units, that can be big. If your opponent doesn't have warp gate finished, right? If they're only making one zealot in the wall and no other adepts or stalkers around, that's very suspicious. Or if they take gases on their third immediately before they've even saturated the minerals, also another sign. And these all things add up. Obviously, you know, one sign on its own is never 100% skytoss, but these are things you want to look for. And once you realize they're doing this, you want to switch gears as a player. And you want to say to yourself, there's nothing you can do to me that's scary. There's nothing aggressive that you can do to me. I can drone like crazy. And you'll see, I really screwed that up in this game. I don't think I noticed the carrier the previous time, because look, I'm building a lot of roaches right now. I think I did see the carrier though, because I'm building a spire, but I don't know why I'm building 11 roaches. I think maybe because I saw a whole bunch of ground units, I was a little worried about a zealot attack coming. Unnecessary, guys. The one thing I'm doing that's correct though, is I'm building 2 macro hatcheries, a 4th and a 5th base, because I'm realizing, well, let's be greedy. Now, you probably don't need the macro hatcheries. These could all just be expansions instead. But the idea is you want to supercharge your macro, okay? So you want to make sure you build as many hatcheries as you possibly can, hold down the drone key, and you want to rush to basically 5 bases and 90 drones. And on these bases, you want to be taking these gases before the hatchery's even finished. You can see I'm a little slow to do it. The idea is when this hatchery finishes, you should already have 3 workers mining on each gas. Even if they did a long distance mining trip, doesn't matter. You want to get this done before these bases are finished because you're going to need a massive gas count to deal with it. Now, the second thing is if they're aggressive with their air units, you will need to build more queens and potentially a few spores. You'll see I've got 9 queens here, and I got them all ready on a control group if I need to pull them to the front, okay? But I'm going Spire. Now, people make the mistake of going Spire and rushing air units. If your opponent's attacking you with the air units, yes, build Corruptors. But otherwise, do not use the Spire. Just start getting air armor, then air attack, then air armor 2, air attack 2. Just start upgrading. The more important thing is you want to go Hive. Now, what's really important, notice I've gone double Evo, melee carapace, is Lings, upgraded Lings, Corruptors if needed, and then going to Ultras. Ultra Corruptor is the easiest way to play against skytoss. We will add Banelings later as well, which will help us bust through walls and cannons and things like that. The reason is, essentially, if it's full air, you don't really need Ultras, but you're still going to go them, because if the air units move out or attack at all, you can run in and kill their stuff. If you can deny bases, I've sniped this base twice in a row now, which is fantastic. You go for it. But later on, what you could do is you can grab Ultras, smash half of your Ultraling Bane in here, and the other half can attack here. The way to beat a skytoss player is not to attack their air army. It's to kill their economy, and then if they come to you, then you can remax on Corruptors and actually kill the air army. But your goal should always be to say, look, you're just building flying units, I'm going to go kill you on the ground. And what's great about this is this also sets you up. So if they're actually one of the rare skytoss players who makes High Templar, which this player is, which I was shocked by, this player's build is absolutely terrible, by the way. They're just building a bit of everything. They're like a few Stalkers, ground upgrades, their air upgrades are a little bit slow, even though that should be the priority. Some Void Rays, some carriers, sometimes they're kind of just doing random things. But generally, Storm wrecks Corruptors pretty hard, right? So there's a few things you can do. You can spread your Corruptors out before a fight to come from multiple angles, so they're naturally not taking Storm as bad, number one. You can fly your Corruptors on top of the carriers, so the Interceptors are getting hit by Storm as well. So yes, the Corruptors are dying, but so are the Interceptors. And the third thing you can do is have Ultras. And having Ultraling Bane, they will kill all the High Templar. You make them engage maybe 1.5, 2 seconds before your Corruptors come in. And if you can jump on top, that'll kill all the High Templar, and then your Corruptors can just clean up the air army. And Corruptors hard counter carriers and Tempests. Now, I'm already hearing the question, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be thinking this, how the hell do you deal with Void Rays? Don't Void Rays counter Corruptors? Technically, yes, they do. We're also doing a bit of Corruptor Piss for us here as well. You can see I'm just trying to stay active while I'm getting towards the 3-2, the Ultras, the air upgrades. So yes, if they go pure Void Ray, Corruptors are weak against that technically, but that's only if they're committing to nothing but Void Rays, right? If they just got a few Void Rays, we can just ignore it. Doesn't really matter. If they go mass Void Ray, you got to remember, they have an activated ability called Prismatic Alignment. It has a 43-second cooldown. But what it gives them is a massive damage boost, +6. So they go from 7 damage, 11 verse armored, with +1 here. So let's say 10 damage, +6. That's a 60% bonus damage, essentially, against Corruptors and whatnot. So it's a huge, huge boost. Even more than that, effectively, because Corruptors have more armor. So you never want to fight into Mass Void Ray when they have that ability turned on. You want to wait for them to use it and fly away. So you fly in, kill a Void Ray, run away, and when it's worn off, then you can fight with your Corruptors. Also, if they mass Void Rays, the best thing you can do is build Vipers. And I know a lot of you don't feel comfortable with Vipers. Don't worry, you're not using the Viper as a fancy reactive spellcaster unit. It is a unit that just goes in the control group with your Corruptors. You consume some energy off Hatchery or whatever when it pops out, and all you do is click Parasitic Bombs in the middle of the Void Rays. If you can land 1 or 2 Parasitic Bombs, because these Void Rays, look at how much they clump up, they will get absolutely destroyed by Parasitic Bomb. Bonus points if you fly in ahead of the fight or earlier and you just drop a Parasitic Bomb and fly away without actually committing with your Corruptors. That can be excellent. Now, you guys are starting to see why we're going for Zerglings. These units are cheap, they're essentially free, they're fast, the air units are really slow to respond. And this is, like I said, how you beat the skytoss army. Notice, guys, we've got 21 Corruptors, but I haven't actually found a good angle to fight with them yet, so arguably, I didn't even need to build those Corruptors. I could have just gone for the air upgrades. We've got a second Spire now that I'm at 85 workers, 6-7 bases going up. All I want to do is commit to mass Ultras, mass Lings, and keep splitting my army so half attacks the north, half attacks the south. And if I do that, it's going to be excellent. Now, what I'm trying to do here is a very fancy maneuver where I'm trying to intercept his units as he moves between the different defensive angles. But if you look at this from my vision, let's show you guys what I actually see in the game. You can watch from my camera. I don't have good vision, so what I'm missing here is vision of where his army is. So how can we get that? Changelings. Think about how Rogue plays. So what you want to do is you want to just make a bunch of Overseers, have them sitting at home somewhere. I could just go here, make 8 Overseers. At this point, we're rich. And once in a while, I'll go back, tell them all to drop Changelings, control-click the Changelings, and I'll just click them to spread kind of around the front of their bases to see where that air army is. Now you can see here the Corruptors, if you do end up on a lot of Corruptors, to try and get some utility out of them, besides just diving on their army and fighting, come in, use that Caustic Spray, and then run away afterwards. So you can see that I stayed a bit too long, guys. Shouldn't have stayed there at all. But once again, Ultras are on the top, Lings in the middle, and we've got Adrenal Glands, 3-2 upgrades. I don't have +3 Carapace on the way, which is a bit of a mistake. But you can just see that these Lings and Ultras, I can throw these away for days. And when the fight happens, I just need to get Ultras on top of the High Templar, get rid of those, and the Corruptors can fly in and kill the air army. Problem, my opponent's building Immortals. So Immortals, if there's enough of them, will counter Ultralisks. So I'd rather fight before a lot of Immortals get out. And this is where Baneling speed comes in. Banelings are going to help us break down this wall, break through these bases. It's also going to help us jump on top of High Templar if there is a lot of Immortals and the Ultras can't do the job. If they're not quick enough with their Storms, Banelings can kill all of the High Templar. I think the Corruptors serve as a nice deterrent, though. You could arguably have made less and just use them as a bluff. Yeah, well, so the problem you have with Corruptors is that they're a one-dimensional unit. And this is why 90% of players, when I say play Ultra Corruptor, and they just mass Corruptors, I'm like, if the opponent's attacking into you and giving you chances to fight with the Corruptors, that's good. But usually you can't break a defensive, like, Cannon Battery Storm position. So you really want to think of the Corruptor as dead supply defensively, right? Or aggressively. So if you build 30, 40 Corruptors and you have all your supply in it, all you can really do is pee on bases and occasionally pick off air units if they're not watching, right? It's not something you want to have your supply in, because then you don't have enough supply in Ultra Ling to go kill all their bases, and it gives them all the time to build 3/3 air upgrades and Archons and Storms and Immortals and all this sort of stuff. So you want to just try and make sure you don't overinvest in Corruptors unless your opponent's actually attacking you and giving you chances to trade. And ideally, our opponent would come out in the open and we'd just jump on him from two sides with Ultra Corruptor pre-spread. Like, if he moves out here, right, with his army to push, it's the dream. Because I would have split half my Corruptor Ultra to this side, half to this side, and we just F2 A move when he moves deep enough. We just come in from two sides and go YOLO and just jump on top. And that would be a trade I'd usually be really happy with. But you can see I've started throwing a few units away. And not only that, guys, he's got a Dark Shrine now. But I haven't actually adjusted to that yet. So remember, if you're doing a lot of Ultra Ling run-bys, Baneling run-bys, they're going to eventually go Dark Templar. You want to make Overseers, and you want to send them to your counter-attack position. So what I would do here, and we'll do it eventually in this game, is we'll make 5-6 Overseers, and we want to say right-click on the minimap here. That's one staging point for a rally. Shift deselect. And then right-click up here with the next two Overseers. Because these are the two staging zones where I'm going to be sending Ultra Ling Bane to Morph Banes to gather up, to wait for the right time before they go and attack. And you can see I'm doing it now on the bottom, right? There we go. So 4 Overseers are there, and I'm not going to A-move these in. Problem people make. We're going to send in the Ultras, and each time I send in the units from this side, I'll grab one Overseer and just click it on one of the Ultras to follow it. And that should be enough to clean up most of the Dark Templar and really make it much harder for him to defend. But if you don't do that, they can just warp in DTs, and you're in huge trouble. Pig, what about one Infestor for when you're ready to jump? Way too virgin. Already building Vipers, like I said, is something you only need to do if they're building Mass Void Ray. If they're not doing that, don't even bother with the Void Rays. I'm bothering with it because I am an ex-professional gamer who plays a lot of games. You know, I've played thousands of late games. I can do it. I still wouldn't advise Vipers unless it's, like I said, just a Parasitic Bomb. I think Abduct Micro is really fancy. If you're really good at it and you enjoy it, sure, you can do it. But I wouldn't kind of trap yourself in terms of thinking, oh, I have to do that. And you can see these Ultras are trading really well versus the DTs. I keep trying to jump in on the front, trying to abduct units. This is very fancy stuff. You do not need to do this. I cannot hammer this home enough. And this is a problem. I need to stop for a moment because the number of times I coach people on stuff and I tell them things, but there's a lot of people who are very stupid, and you might be one of them. So, like, for instance, I put up a Several Point of View cast yesterday where he took one of the worst Ultralisk engagements I've ever seen against Skillet and got wrecked. And don't get me wrong, he said, oh my god, Ultras are so bad. But then I spent 3 minutes right after that in the video breaking down everything he did wrong in the engagement. And I went, cool, like, obviously Ultras didn't work this game, but they're clearly good and he could have won that game. You know what I saw in the YouTube comments? Everyone was like, wow, Ultras are so useless. What are we even meant to do, Pig? If Ultras are bad and Broodlords are bad, what can we do? Ultras are worthless. Ultras, and I just was scrolling down the comments and I felt like, did you all tune out? Did none of you listen to the 3 minutes of analysis after that of me pointing out how Ultras are really good if you engage correctly and how Sterile took the worst engage where, yes, they are really bad? Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And this happens sometimes where I will talk about a concept, but if people don't see it exactly the example I'm making on the screen at that time, it's like their brain can't compute it. So please close your eyes sometimes, try to use your imagination, and imagine I am not using these Vipers to occasionally abduct a unit. Keep in mind, even though I do abduct maybe 5-6 units across the course of this game, it's a 42-minute game. Those 5 or 6 abducts make almost no difference. And in fact, I probably would have been better off, like I said, if I had a few less Corruptors. I was more just throwing giant ground armies in, ignoring his air army. And I probably would have found more damage, whereas these Vipers and these Corruptors didn't really do that much. That Parasitic Bomb was actually beautiful, by the way. My opponent doesn't know how to use control groups. Remember, this can be something that gets you very angry, guys. You can see he does the IF2, and then I put it on control group 2 so that it's easier to reach. But it's the entire army on one control group, A moving around. You're going to play a lot of people like this. It's important to not get triggered by the fact that your opponent doesn't know how to use the buttons that play the game and is still at the same skill level as you. It happens at GM as well, guys. I know you might think, oh, this guy's, you can only be diamond with it. No, but you can get to GM and beyond. If you do very simple play styles, you can get really, really high level without knowing how to use control groups properly. I know it's wild. The important thing, though, do not rage. And remember, Ultra Corruptor is good. So, at this point, I think we've taken a bit too long to get all this damage done, guys. And we've also just traded quite badly. Whereas if I was going more Ultra Bane, I think we could have crashed this wall down. Imagine if I had 30 Banelings with that last Ultralisk wave. We could have broken this wall down, cleared out a lot of tech in the main and natural. If we had Overseers with our armies earlier, we could have denied this base and this base with Ultra Bane coming from two sides. And because I haven't been able to do that, we've given him the chance to build a rather scary army. But is it really? Make sure you pay attention to what your opponent's army is. Whilst he has more army supply than me, 125 versus 122, there are 11 Stalkers in here. Complete garbage. 2 Immortals, 3 Immortals, very useful versus this. 6 High Templar, very useful. 4 Archons, very useful. There's also an Adept and how many Zealots? An Adept and 2 Zealots, also garbage units. So there's quite a bit of garbage supply in my opponent's army. Arguably, if I had a bigger bank, especially Mineral Bank, I could throw away 10 to 20 drones here, go down to 50 to 60 workers, so I could have a bigger army. But in this game where I haven't traded well enough, that's not viable. But that's something you can do to make sure your army is big enough to overwhelm when the fight actually happens. Instead, we are going to have to try and be very coy about when we take this engagement. If we take it too early, we are going to get wrecked because our army is just not that big. We do have 10 Ultras now. If we get a sandwich with 10 Ultras, we can do it. Blood Feast, thank you so much for the crazy generosity, by the way. Blood Feast on stream. What the hell, dude? Thank you for the love, mate. So you can see, guys, we're doing a two-prong here. These bases are right next to each other. So we run in, we see his army. These guys run away, but I see that he's going to pull away. So I immediately shift-click them to go right back in. And these guys, I probably should have clicked on the Nexus. You can see the Ultras are kind of derping around, and I should have ran them away now. So we lose a few Ultras, a little sloppy there. And then these Ultras come back in. But because we're attacking right next to each other, this is what I would call bad multi-prong, guys. If you're attacking two spots that their air army can just sit between and defend both, bad. But if I was attacking the natural, that would be good. But the problem is, because he has a wall off and cannons, I'm now in the mindset of, oh, that's an unbreakable position. This is a bad mindset. Remember, Banelings. I should have been making Banelings 2-3 minutes ago when Bane Spears finishes. If I just click Banelings even on the gateway, I could click 15 Banelings on the gateway and then this cannon and this cannon, like say 25 Banes, flood Ultra Ling in, and he's screwed. Because while the Banelings clicking on the gateway and the cannons aren't efficient, it's breaking open the wall and getting on top of everything else that's going to give me so much efficiency that'll make up for that. Now you can see here I'm running in again, having a bit of a derpy derp because I'm attacking in just too concentrated a position. You can see I threw a Parasitic Bomb down, and because my opponent doesn't know how to spread out, it is doing a fair bit of damage to the Void Rays. If I threw another one, that would be great. But instead I go for Abducts because I'm low IQ. I get a carrier there, but I lose a Viper and a Corruptor or two. It's not like these are great trades. So I'm doing a very bad job of the fancy Viper stuff, and if I just focused on the Ultraling Bane, spreading creep a little bit as well for more map vision, we'd have a much easier game. Now you might be wondering, why don't I just go Broodlords, right? Broodlords counter the ground army, and the problem is the Tempest, guys. They'll pick you off. So whilst you could do a Tempest, a Broodlord push, you would need to try and put the Spores forward probably here, get 20 Spores here with creep. And if you can get 20 Spore Crawlers here, Infestors, Vipers, Broodlords, Corruptors, Queens for Transfuse, great way to play. You guys should totally do that. Small thing, just make sure, yeah. Just, can you guys grab your ID for me right now, everybody? Can you just, everybody grab your ID. Can you guys just tell me, look at your passport. Does it look, does your photo look like that? Because if your photo looks like that, picture up there, I think that's the best way to beat it. Honestly, I think you'll just dismantle it 9 times out of 10. These guys are F2A movers for the most part. They're not very good at controlling. You're going to beat them. You are better at StarCraft than they are. Now, if your photo doesn't look like that, I'm going to go on a limb and say, keep building Ultra Corruptor. Now, you might say, well, this is not what pros do. You're trying to teach us bad, dumb things. This is not a game I did to teach you guys. I honestly was looking for the most consistent way for me at my skill level to win the match. And do you know who I learned this off? A guy called Dark, who is a world champion. who's a guy who has won more money than like everyone except 5 other people in StarCraft 2. I mean, there's essentially, he did this for years and won so much during the Void Ray, the mass Void Ray turtle meta. So yeah. So you guys can see, I'm basically thinking about how I can jump on the army now. I'm like, when can I jump on this army? I'm trying to make like ultras and lings and keep trading, but he's not coming in the open, so I don't feel like I can get on top of his High Templar with my ultras. And I feel like if I can't get on top of his his High Templar, that it's not going to work out. Once again, attacking in with no banelings like a nincompoop, guys. Corruptors eating some storms, flying away. Lings being annoying here. Ultras and lings running in. All right. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll just take this fight soon. But remember, he's got 4 Immortals and a ton of Archons and just meat in front of them, Zealots, Stalkers. So at this point, Ultras are not as good as they would have been when he just had a few High Templar carriers and Gateway units, right? We've given him time to build up Immortals. They're not as good in the frontal fight. We're going to sacrifice like 4 Corruptors to kill a Nexus there. Arguably, because I'm keeping his economy small, I can trade inefficiently. He's like running out of resources, right? We're trying to prompt him into pushing me because I'm like, please push me so I can kill your army. Problem is, look at my supply. I'm building more drones right now, which means my army supply is so much lower than his. Even if he pushes me, I can't fight him right now. So remember, guys, if you try to push your opponent into fighting you and attacking you, and you don't actually have the army ready to deal with it, maybe that shouldn't be your goal in the game. Like right now, he's finally pushing, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't know if I have enough army. And then I'm waiting for 9 Corruptors and 2 Ultras, but I'm pretty sure I lose my cool here and fight without it. So keep in mind, I've got 7 Queens, not part of the fight. That's 14 wasted supply. I'm up 13 workers from him, which means at least 13 less possible army supply at max. And I try to come in with a nice surround. Look at my nice surround, guys. 2 Ultras run in from here, way ahead of these 2 Ultras that were meant to loop around the top. And it's like 2 or 3 Ultras. Like, what is this army that I'm attacking with? I get I'm making a heavy Corruptor army. Okay, no, there's 2 more Ultras hidden under there. But notice they're all attacking essentially from one direction. And I am just getting absolutely hammered. What the F was that fight? Number 1, spread your Corruptors, come from multiple sides. Number 2, spread your Ultras. Number 3, why fight there? He killed a base. He's already killed the base. I don't need to fight here. But I was getting over anxious. I was like, I gotta fight! Because I stopped doing damage. Whereas if I had Banelings with my Ultras and I was smashing through this wall, I wouldn't feel as stressed out. So remember, guys, Banelings earlier, use them in your run-bys. They will crack open your opponent's defenses. And this game went from being way in my favor to trading 16,000 resources worse because I am basically too busy getting angry at this point. To give you guys context, I played this game live on stream. I was like, this guy's useless. His IQ is so low. How much brain damage can you have? This guy clearly doesn't even use control groups. Every single toxic, ego-fueled thought you could possibly have while playing a game of StarCraft, I had running through my head at this point in the game. And that's what led me to the last 5 minutes of continuing to just throw Ultras into Cannon Immortal Dark Templar and just not dealing with the situation in front of me. And then finally, I decide to come in here. Unfortunately, I do get spotted. Now notice, with the Banelings, guys, when they come in, look at the micro I do. So what we do is we A move, and then we control click the Banes, and we shift click them on buildings that is in the center. So notice I clicked there and then clicked in the minerals. If there was more cannons here, so I want them to blow up this cannon and then move in. If I was clicking on here, coming from the left, I would say Banelings click on this pylon, then this cannon, then this cannon, then this cannon, so that they're kind of blowing up in the sort of centrally areas where they're getting in the middle and doing as much splash damage as possible. Otherwise, they're going to derp around a lot and not necessarily, because they might be like, well, the battery's not a fighting thing, so I'll go around the battery. But you can see here, just blow up in a clump. Because his army came back, I turn around and run away. And that itself was not cost efficient, but there'll be opportunities for it to be cost efficient later. Problem is we don't have much Ultra Ling here, which is quite bad as well. So we throw away a few more units. At this point, I'm thinking, oh god, my Ultras did so bad in that last fight. He has 6 Immortals now. I can't rely on Ultras. I need to rely on pure Ling Bane the next time a big fight happens to probably overwhelm him. Actually, I might not have figured that out at this moment. You guys might be about to see me take one of the worst fights of all time. Okay, so what happens here? Check it out. So I'm getting ready to jump on him, but his Observer sees me. I don't have an Overseer with my army. Huge mistake. These guys are getting ready to counterattack again. So they go in. We lose a base. At least this time I was more patient and let the base die. And I should have ran the Ultra Ling away. I think the Baneling's killing all the probes is still good. We do catch a few of his units that are trying to retreat, which is nice. But it's not really that much. And we do try to click on the Nexus, I think. But look at how many Ultras I'm sacrificing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 6-7 Ultras for one Nexus is not worth it, guys. I am now 20,000 resources behind. I do not need to fight there. Those Ultras would have been excellent if half of them were attacking here with Banelings and the other half were attacking up here. But remember, I had a mental block in this game. I saw a wedge of cannons and I said, that's a no-go zone. I can't go there. Even though this was the weakest spot for him, because once I get through those cannons with Banelings, we get in and we win this game so easily. But I'm just not processing that because I'm too angry and I'm going, my opponent's low skill. He's a moron. He's a moron. You know, like the APM. I'm like, I'm more than double his APM. And it's very hard to think cool, calm StarCraft when you're raging, essentially. I have just re-expanding to different hatcheries, trying to take these ones as well. Thank you very much, Bloody Feast, for the elite cheer as well. Dude, really appreciate it, Blood Feast. Did I just call you Bloody Feast? Yeah, I like that. I'm going to call you Bloody Feast from now on. It's a badass name. All right, so we're still not figuring out that we can attack elsewhere, but luckily, because his army moves out of position, we kill a few probes, we get a bit of damage done to these cannons, splitting Lings onto these bases. Those Lings kill a few probes. The Lings are going to run away. We're trying to just multi-prong. Lings are basically free, remember? We tried to burrow next to a cannon there, guys. That just shows how high my IQ is. What can I say? 14 more drones are building. I'm realizing I actually lost way more drones on these bases than I thought. And suddenly I'm actually down in this game. I'm down 30 army supply and I'm realizing, oh god, I've thrown this game away. I can't believe it. I know I need to go Banelings now to find damage on the run-bys, but I don't have money to support Banelings. So I'm trying to re-drone while trying to damage his economy with Ling Bane. Luckily, we do get some really good damage here. And he's very slow to respond. So we get a Nexus, we kill a lot of stuff, the Lings run away. And I'm back up to 56 workers, which might not seem like a good economy, but compared to my opponent, it is still not bad. He's going to kill a hatchery again. My Lings are going to go in. Warping in Zealots to deal with it. Notice we're always bringing Overseers in case Dark Templar warp in. But I actually killed his Dark Shrine. No, I didn't. Never mind. Thought I killed his Dark Shrine. Maybe that happens later in this game. Lings deny Nexus over there. He comes up. Suffered from the same problem you have. I think this is a very relatable game. I was beating him with the Ultra Corruptor, and then I just kept stubbornly attacking the same two spots with Ultra Corruptor over and over. You know, it's all about how you take engagements, man. What I like about Ultra Corruptor is, like, people sometimes go, but look how hard it is to take good engagements with it. And I'll go, it's not that hard to just attack your opponent from two sides. As long as you just, like, it's basic theory. Attack here and here at the same time. Is that complicated? No, that's just a system you can understand. Controlling Viper, Infestor, Broodlord, Spore is effing hard, guys. It's very hard to manage. So he's going to snipe a base again. I didn't run my drones away until very late because I'm bad. We've got a few Lings still countering up this top side, taking out pylons, killing long-distance probes, trying to run my Overlords away. And I'm realizing, oh crap, I am going to need to get Banelings to clear his High Templar. If I can clear the High Templar with Banelings, his air army's not that scary. It's a few carriers, Void Rays, and Tempests. My 34 Corruptors will easily clean it. But I'm like, okay, I need enough Ling Bane to deal with it. But I'm going to keep counterattacking and waiting for the perfect fight. I can't attack from one direction in a choke point. Now you can see we're looking for pickoffs here. We grab a Tempest. We grab a second Tempest. So that's a good start. We're going to abduct a Void Ray. So this is a good little fight. This is good Viper usage. And whenever they start running away or running to rotate their army, that's a good time for you to engage. So he does storm down a Viper, which is well done by him. But the Ling Bane's denied this base. He's got that base back up. But if I make more Banelings, I can crash into those as well. And we are limiting the amount of room he has to really breathe. Do I kill this Nexus? I feel like I don't target it. But I get it anyway, luckily, despite not targeting it. Banelings are going to burrow up there next to the single mineral patch just because I didn't want them to die and they had no good target to hit. I guess they could have blown up these pylons, but wouldn't have quite killed them, would have just damaged them. So my opponent's going to double Nexus. I'm once again going, well, if he's not going to attack, I guess I've got to rebuild some drones. There's still plenty of minerals in these corners for me to mine, in these middle bases as well, which I'm just starting to take. You might think, well, I've got too much gas. Why am I taking the purple gas? I just figure, look, we're playing for the long game. We're eventually going to need it. Might as well start mining it if I don't have any more minerals. But minerals are the priority at this stage. Lings run in, get themselves killed there. He kills a hatchery. We don't quite cancel it in time. And you can see we're still just on Ultra Ling Bane Corruptor. If we kill all the Immortals, we will immediately swap back to Ultras, guys. Like, instantly. Like, we won't even think about it twice. This probe doesn't even realize how lucky he is that he's not considered a high-value target. Lingbane rolls forward, gets the Stalkers. Lings are going to hit this side. So remember, top left, bottom right, hit opposite sides. Use your mobility. So they run in, run away. And now, what are we going to do, guys? Watch the micro, get the Banelings, control click them, and look at that. I told you guys about the shift click pattern to get in the middle, so they're doing maximum splash damage. So that's going to allow me to clear this base. At the same time, these guys are going to run in from the south, and I'm like, ah, crap, his army's still here. We came in too early. But I realized, wait a second, Banelings can get in. So we kill another, like, 20 workers there. He's down to just 12 workers. My Corruptors decide a really high IQ move here would be to kill themselves. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. We get one Tempest and a Void Ray, and we lose, like, 8 Corruptors there or something. I don't know, too many. Too many Corruptors. I think that was a mistake. I think I meant to get the Tempest, and then I thought I clicked them away, but I didn't. I looked back and got pretty angry, but no need to be so over-aggressive. And just keep hitting. Top left with Lingbane. Clear out this base. And then the bottom side can hit as well. And you can just see how a skytoss player usually is going to really struggle to deal with that. And if they ever do move in the open, I get to show you the army engage with the big surround. We never got to show that because he never pushed deep. He picked off an edge base, pulled back. Picked off an edge base, recalled. Never gave me the chance for the big surround. So I guess that's one thing which this replay doesn't show you well. But I would say that's the easier part of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've coached a lot of StarCraft players, so I do understand some of you are going to massively misunderstand, and you're going to send me replays and post in the comments going, oh, it doesn't work, and I'll get you to post a replay in the Discord, which you should all do, by the way. My Discord has a ton of high-level players coaching each other, mid-level players, low-level players, everyone discussing the game and learning to get better. And just the other day, I went in there and analyzed a whole bunch of random people's replays and posted some detailed notes for them. So it's kind of like a lucky dip. You might get free coaching in there from me, but you'll definitely get free advice from the community. So go in there and post your replays. But I just know there'll be replays of people headbutting one directionally into a wall of cannon battery Archon Void Ray with like pure Ultra, not surrounding them, not attacking from two sides, not flanking their army. Because remember, when you're playing melee units, you've got to come from a big surround. And essentially, if you're fighting this army, Ultras are worthless, unless... Where can Ultras be good against Immortals, guys? If you land Blinding Clouds. Very hard to do, but technically, if you are stuck on mass Ultra against this sort of army, you want to not only come from two sides, you want to try and just spam Blinding Clouds across the middle. If the Immortals are Blinding Clouded, they're not going to do a lot. They're going to get kind of wrecked, and that's really big. Now, at this point, because my opponent's refusing to leave, guys, and we have got back to a winning position, you can see in my bank and stuff, I am now going Broodlords. Now, the reason I'm going Broodlords is because if you look at his army, that's 90% ground army, right? He's only got 2 carriers, 4 Void Rays, 4 Tempests. Not a big air army. I still do not want to fight front on with those Broodlords. They're not a good unit for standing and fighting. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use them as a third squad for multi-prong, or a second squad. So my main army, like I just rolled Banes in and killed more probes, by the way. My main army is going to keep denying this base, and then whenever his army moves to the side, my Broodlords will run in and just siege this base from the low ground, kill a few workers, hit the Nexus, run away. We don't want to stand and fight, though. And then we can also rotate army to attack up here and start clearing out all of his tech and production. So even though he can technically defend these 2 areas with this blob, he can't defend this mineral line from the cliff, this from this side, and also me attacking the north. So just looking at this, that's really what you want to make sure you do. Would Dark use a Nidus in these situations? You can. I'd say it's a bit unnecessarily complicated. I think Nidus or drops, why not just smash more Lingbane in here? There's nothing stopping Lingbane Ultra smashing through here, smashing through here. So I think Nidus is almost overcomplicating things, right? If you're already attacking in 2 or 3 places at once, you don't need to overcomplicate things. So when you play a big Lingbane kind of multi-prong style like this, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. This army's already incredibly fast, and the more you micro it, the better. If you run in here, you see his army, you pull that army back. Click it back down here, micro this army up here, you see his army arrive, pull it back, and select the other control group and A-move it in. That takes a lot of APM, it takes a lot of attention. So doing that sort of stuff is way more important. Dude, I asked about Nidus 5 minutes ago, says Bloodfeast. I totally missed it. Sorry, mate. I've only got a small snapshot of chat that I can actually see right now on my second monitor. So please don't be afraid to repost questions, guys. You're not being annoying at all. But yeah, like I said, if you love Nidus Worms, you can go for it. But it's not the end all and the be all. So you can see he was stabilizing. So I've realized, let's attack this northern side. Just use your mobility, guys. As he moves forward, we should be attacking the south. And I'm going, oh man, why was my army out of position? Idiot. These guys should have been ready to deny this base. The Broodlords, though, you can see his army's out of position. So we're going to A-move. And as soon as I see him there, I run away. I go, oh god, there's Broodlords and Carriers, there's Void Rays and Carriers, just pull them back. I don't even have anything guarding them. And then these guys immediately go back in. And he's like, he comes here, and I run in, and I go, oh god, run away. And I could click Banelings on that or something, but his army's right there, no need to risk it. So the Broodlords go back in, kill a few probes, run away. And I'll show you from my camera view how we're doing this. I should have been probably showing that for a little while. Notice also the changeling vision, guys. Those changelings I was talking about. I've had overseers over here. There was like 6 or 7 earlier. I've been dropping changelings and just doing that. Control click, shift click them over there to get vision. And that gives me, it makes it much easier to pull this sort of move off. So if you keep sending those changelings in, yes, sometimes they'll notice it and click on it. But the more you do it, remember, the APM it takes you to drop 20 changelings, send them across the map, spread them out a little bit. Nowhere near as annoying as it is for them to try and click on every single changeling. It is so annoying for the PROTOSS player to click on those changelings. There's a reason Rogue spams changelings in these situations. It is insanely good. This guy seems to only have a death ball approach. Very common. Most skytoss players don't know how to use control groups. They literally just don't. They just don't have that skill more often than not. The reason you play skytoss is usually if you are a much lower APM player, doesn't really want to learn multitasking, micromanagement, you know, you don't want to play a mobile movement-based game. You want to play just like a turtley game with a few small harassments of like Void Rays diving on a hatchery or something like that. So you can see, guys, the way I'm just bouncing between my army. I'm not really standing and fighting at all. I've just unburrowed those Banelings, by the way, and I've brought them back to join my army. I figured behind enemy lines for that long, they deserve to rejoin the front. And you can see his army supply is still bigger than mine. And you might be wondering, Pig, why aren't you maxing? And the question is, guys, what should I max on? My opponent is not attacking. If he attacks me, I should max before I fight, for sure. But I don't really know exactly what my unit comp wants to be right now. So I'm just focusing on wearing him down, remaxing Ling Bane, sending it into counter, remaxing Ling Bane, sending it into counter. Should I have remaxed the Zerglings faster? Yeah. But when you're in a very slow late game, don't just build units mindlessly. A lot of people make this mistake where they think, oh yeah, you've got to just spend your money. And I'm like, well, what's more important in this sort of game is spending the money efficiently and finding ways to actually kill his army, right? And here, notice he's pushing. What am I doing, guys? Am I fighting his army? Nope, we're just going to base trade him. And generally, an aggressive skytoss player is even easier to beat than a defensive one, I would say, because you get to base trade the moment they move out. Every single time with Ling Bane Overseer, Ling Bane Ultra Overseer, it will ruin their economy. Their army's slow. It's not specialized at fighting ground units. Ultras especially take very little damage with all their armor upgrades from carriers, and to a lesser extent Void Rays. You know, if you have a 7 armor Ultra list, max upgraded Void Ray with Prismatics doing 11, 12, 13 plus 6, 19 damage minus 7. You know, it's still 12 damage every 0.6 seconds. Still, it's not bad damage for the Void Ray, but it's way less than it gets against other armored units. So it's just something to keep in mind. So you can see the way I'm saying, okay, let's click some Banelings in the mineral line. I'm like, man, he has a lot of Archons, and I am thinking about making more Broodlords at this point. You can see I'm starting to make a few more. We're also trying to kind of just make him rage quit out of this game almost by just, you know, he has no bases. He's losing his main. I'm like, look, if I just keep sending Lings in here, he is screwed. So we can go back to my vision, guys. You can see his army's coming, and we're running away. Do not rush into their army. He wants to fight. Okay, let's start picking off some units. So what do, guys? We grab a Tempest. If he spreads out, we do that. If you don't have the Viper Micro, don't bother. This is a dangerous move. But I get 2 Tempests for a Corruptor, a bit of damage. Super worth it. And I'm realizing at this point, I don't actually need to kill him, his army. If he keeps committing, what I'm doing is I'm building Zerglings and noticing I'm clicking them across the map. You might wonder, why am I clicking my Lings across the map? I've clicked them here and shift-click there. Because I realize I don't need to kill this army. I have bases all over the map. All I need to do is kill his buildings. And if he chases in and base trades, the Broodlords can basically shoot, pull back, and kill all of his Archons eventually without ever fighting his air units. So you see how he has to pull back because he's afraid of the Broodlords. And I'm like, look, if you kill a hatchery or whatever, I don't mind. But I'm just shooting, pulling back, shooting, pulling back. If it gets to this stage where they're on mostly a ground army, that's what you can do. Adding Lurkers to your Broodlords will allow you to have a much better anti-ground firing power. If you guys don't want to play such a movement-focused game, you see them going into mass ground like this with just a bit of air support, add about 8 to 10 Lurkers with your Broodlords, and if they attack into, say, 10 Broodlords and 10 Lurkers, any PROTOSS ground army is just going to absolutely get destroyed. It will be one of the most one-sided demolishings you've ever seen. If you add a few Fungals or Blinding Clouds or anything like that as well, it's great, but you really don't need to. Broodlord Lurker on its own will do very well. Now, my opponent also didn't build a mothership. Huge mistake for him. Should have been using a mothership for sure. But for whatever reason, my opponent didn't. You can see we're just trying to kill that base. I came in with Corruptors, killed a few more Void Rays there. I'll show you guys that one more time. So I see him chasing. I'm still sending those Changelings in. Pick off 2 more Void Rays. 3 more Void Rays. And remember, guys, this is a classic example of a game where I did everything wrong for about 15 to 20 minutes. There's going to be people saying, I don't have this micro. How do I beat this guy? This guy's 5k MMR. Number one, you're not playing this guy in the ladder unless you are, you know, Masters Plus. Number two, I was behind. Remember, I fell down 30, 40, 50 supply, less bank than my opponent at one point in this game. I messed up terribly in this game. You should not have to do what I've done at the end of this game with full base trade, running away, kiting, abducting. A lot of that stuff was unnecessarily sweaty, and I didn't need to focus on it. I've got 14k, 5k. I could have either full base traded, or I could have gone for the big Lingbane surrounding this army, which, to be fair, probably not a choice, because he has to leave there, because those were his last buildings. He was getting defeated. When they've got this many Archons, guys, Lingbane can no longer get to the High Templar consistently, even if your opponent's bad at storming and you surround them. When they have this many Immortals, your Ultras can't get on top. At this point, you need to use either Broodlords or Lurkers if you want to fight the frontal army, preferably both of them together, or Broodlords being the priority. And that's the really important thing you want to do. I was down 18,000 resources in the units lost at the end of this game, despite killing all of my opponent's buildings. That shows you how inefficient I was, guys. How inefficient I played this terribly. So bad. I think it was really not bad up to maybe 12 minutes or so. 13, 14, 15 minutes. Let's say about 15 minutes. But I went a bit too heavy into Corruptors too early, despite my opponent not attacking. I did not need to build 27 Corruptors by 14 minutes, guys. Like I said, what would have made this whole game much easier? Don't make the mistakes I made in this game. Don't build this. He never attacked me with his air army. All he did was a single, like, 1 or 2 Void Ray harass. My 9 Queens have that covered. Imagine if I had 54 more supply and all this money, put in Lingbane and Ultra, and I just kept on attacking his natural wall, and here, and here. It's either attack here, and just keep doing that over and over. This game should have been over by the 20-minute mark at most. My opponent never should have gotten to where they should have. He never should have even probably got +3 air. I made this way harder. So guys, do not invest in Mass Corruptor. Go Ultra Corruptor. Do not build Corruptors unless your opponent is being aggressive and attacking you. Having enough Lingbane Ultra to base trade your opponent is how you beat skytoss. That is the lesson at the end of the day. Get the Corruptor upgrades. Add the second Spire once you're rich enough to get both Corruptor upgrades. Start with armor, then attack, then armor, then attack. But at the end of the day, it is ground army that beats skytoss. And that's very unintuitive, but I guarantee you, you will have much easier times when you do that. And I have a lot of games where I beat the skytoss player in 15, at most 20 minutes, because I do that correctly. This game, I made it hard for myself, so you guys got to see a bunch of different situations. It was kind of an epic game, but I really do believe that I basically mental blocked myself by disrespecting my opponent. I was like, this guy's an idiot, he's so stupid, he's such a dummy, he doesn't know how to play this game. And I just made a lot of bad decisions because of it. So remember, your opponents, some of them will play easier strategies than you. Protoss, TERRAN, Zerg, doesn't matter. There will be guys that one base all in, Bane Bust every game, and make it to Grandmaster. I kid you not, these guys exist. And you're like, how is this guy Grandmaster? They are. They mastered one strategy. There's the guy who cannon rushes every game. There's the guy who skytosses every game. They're not trying to copy Serral. They're not trying to copy Maru or Clem. They're not trying to play like Max Pax, and that's okay. We can't control it. The best thing you can do is feel the joy of dismantling those players and making them look bad. And counterintuitively, the way you do that, it's not by sitting there talking about how bad they are during the game. It's by going, okay, they're doing a bit of a gimmicky strat. Here's its strengths, here's its weaknesses, here's my plan. Let's execute that plan. I can smack talk them once the game's over. But if you're too busy smack talking and disrespecting and letting your ego get in the way, God, this guy's an idiot. Every time your opponent does something right or you run into an obstacle, you're going to panic because your ego is going to go, oh my God, am I actually losing to a moron? I'm losing to a moron. I'm losing to a moron. And there's that voice in the back of your head that's going, if I'm losing to a moron, what am I? What am I? And that's why, guys, you absolutely checkmate yourself if you disrespect your opponent too much, because you start panicking going, oh my God, I'm losing to an idiot. So stop disrespecting your opponents in the middle of games. It is the best way to give yourself a mental block, is to disrespect your opponent in the middle of a match. Not a good move. GG, well played, though. We got the win. You can see this Corruptor Viper control was not very good, guys. But, yeah, definitely use Parasitic Bomb against most of these guys. You can see they'll just sit in it and not spread their units out at all. GG, well played, guys. Hope this helps you out. Let me know comments. I will try to check in the comments. Been trying to read the comments here on the Pig Coaching channel a little more frequently. I know I'm a bit infrequent. The best place to really get feedback, though, is in my Discord. There's a link down below in the description of the video. Please join the Discord where you guys can all communicate, post replays, get feedback. And as always, if you ever ask me a question in my Twitch chat, twitch.tv/x5_pig, that's the easiest place to catch me live. If you want to ask a question, yeah, thanks for watching. Anyway, that's enough. This video is already meandering. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye and good night.